Hi everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. This is really nice having you all here. And thanks for nice introduction. I didn't know I'm a leader actually, so thank you so much. It's like the title looks so fancy, right? Behavioral science, financial forecasting, and the reason is that I'm here. I have a message that comes from this competition that I explain later what was about M6 forecasting competition, and I use very simple approach to win Q4 of this competition. The competition was for 1 year, and I just participated on the last quarter. And the approach was so simple that is surprisingly nice to hear because of all these complex methodologies around. It's nice also to hear. Also, Robert had mentioned in this introduction that sometimes also is how we change our mindset, like as humans, not only relying on algorithms, but sometimes us as humans could also change our perspective to see some different result. I'm working 5 years in time series analysis, and let's get through it. And so this is leaderboard of this M6 competition. My team name was Mahsa Amini. Maybe you have heard it from. Last year, almost the revolution in Iran. What we see, I give like a small introduction to M6 forecasting competition because it's necessary to know what was it about. And then I introduce some insights from behavioral science that helped me solve this problem. And then I introduce my M6 strategy, which was divided into 2 different parts, forecasting, and then using those forecasts and translating to investment decisions. So, what was M6 about? So, for those who don't know about this M6 competition, this is like the benchmark in forecasting. So, it's like the most prominent competition that basically all the available methods would be tested on this competition, and then afterwards we know which models basically work best. And it was around from 1980s. So it has history. M6 especially was about financial forecasting, and the participants should have forecasted 100 assets. 50 of them were from 50 S&P 500 assets, and 50 from ETFs. And the competition was run for 1 year, so from beginning of 2020 to beginning of 2023. And it had 12 months of rolling forecast, and so it was planned to basically mimic the real world, so how the real financial forecaster works. And it was long term because to see which method is reliable over time, so basically a stress testing. So M6 had 2, I briefly mentioned, it had 2 parts. First, you had to forecast the return of the asset. And basically, you had to have the returns, and then rank the returns for next month, and then assign them based on different in different categories. So, for example, quintile means 20% simply, right? So you had to forecast these assets, these 100 assets, and then rank those, the returns or the profit you get out of these assets, and then have them in different quintiles. So for example, you forecast next month's Amazon asset would be this amount. It has a higher profit, and then it would be among these 100 assets, it would be in top 20 or the lowest level. So this is a file of the submission. So you had to. So this is Amazon, right? So these ranks are the quintiles. So basically, you would say 25% of chance there is for Amazon next month to be its profit or its return to be on top 20%, right? And then you had to translate this forecast to decisions, right? So if you know that your assets, one asset or your ETF would be on top 20% of the returns, right? So you know that you want to buy it, right? Because you want to make money. And then if you know this is your asset is on lower 20%, you want to sell it because you don't want to lose your money. So basically you want to buy quintile 5 and you want to sell the ones that are on lower level of quintile 1. Is this clear? Let's discuss if it's not clear, because this is essential in what we are going to. Yeah.
Are there any transactional costs involved?
Not really, no. Okay. It was like you had some money, like virtual money, and you could. Yeah.
Okay.
No transaction costs. Yeah.
Is the decision strategy in step 2 set? I mean, I could also say I try to find the worst forecast and buy always quantile 1 and sell quantile 5, just because it's written down here. Or is this just an example?
This one you mean? Or?
Yeah, like the text below.
Oh, this is this. No, this is just equation. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Another. Yeah.
Are the absolute numbers of returns important, or we just discover them during the study and then just have them as they are?
Absolute numbers.
Absolute numbers of returns. For example, the fifth quintile can be 50%, or it can be 10%, depending on
it
the
doesn't
market.
matter, exactly.
It doesn't matter, no?
Yeah, it could be like the first rank could be thousands of return, and then second would be 10%. Doesn't matter. So it's just to categorize them.
And more of like automatic scales, no? All the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. So this file, this Excel screenshot was. So basically, you provide the probability of your asset to be placed on each quintile. So you say, okay, Amazon would be, there's a, I think, 28% chance to be in quintile 1. And then, yeah, so if it's clear, then we move. Sure.
So from reading from your from this Excel screenshot, you would sell 28% of your Amazon stocks and buy 25%, and then take the difference, and this is then what you buy or sell.
Actually, yeah, investment decision was a bit more complicated, not like that, but if you have, I show some examples with like histogram is easier to see. Let's answer the question later because we have much nicer example. So, what is the thing about behavioral science, right? The concept that came to my mind, I mean the idea, the insight was from this book, like this seminal book from Khani. And so he's a Nobel, he has won the Nobel Prize, right? So he has this anecdote in his book. is a story. He was so he had a committee to create a textbook for students, high school. In high school, students need a book, in Israel actually, need a book for behavioral science. So they made a committee. Of course, Daniel Kahneman, the head of this committee. And he wanted to know how long this textbook would be ready, would be finished, right? He asked around from the members, how much do you think it takes for this textbook to finish? And the average response was 2 years. So they just looked into the plan. So it was already some months through the project. And so they looked into the plan, details and the specifics, and they said, okay, around the average was 2 years. And then actually Kahneman recalled one of these guys, one of the members, had already been in some other committees for other textbooks. So the same concept. And he just asked the guy, how long did it take for other projects? And the guy, which also, he had also responded around like 2 years, he said, oh, actually it took around 8 years most of the times. You know, it was like, for him himself, it was very surprising. He didn't think about it, even though he was there. And then, so Kahneman came with this idea that there is like inside view, and then there's something outside view. So we need to see like the broader context and the statistical distribution of like what happened in the past. And like to connect this concept to the forecasting, I would say it's related to asking the right questions. So this is very important. Like in this committee, first he asked how much it takes, and then they were not prompt to answer in a way that include the statistical distribution of the past. And for forecasting, we could also say, like this classical prediction problem, like Wells' prediction of like the grades of students. Do we need to answer, like the question should be framed in absolute term or in relative term? So we need to forecast the Wells tier, or we need to forecast the Wells level. Or for example, it could be anything, right? A startup success. It should be the potential of the team, or the resources the team has, or we should consider the resources or the capabilities of this startup team compared to other startups, you know? So this is important that we ask the right questions. So how could we translate this idea of outside view to this financial forecasting, right? So if we just recall what was M6 about, we had 100 assets. We wanted to know the ranking of this asset, if they are in top 20% or the lowest returns, right? So quintile 5 or quintile 1, or in between. So the inside view, what would be the inside view? The inside view is that, okay, I have 100 assets, I forecast each one, I get the return, and then I rank them, right? And then I say, okay, this is the probability of being in quintile 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is the inside view. But what is the outside view? How we could frame the question in another way that present the statistical distribution of the past. It's simple, right? you want to forecast the ranks of return, right? So very obvious question is that what was the quintile or the ranks of return in the past, right? So instead of forecasting the main time series and then creating the ranks of the returns, you should see the other way. So you should, instead of looking this way, you should look this way. What was the rank of the previous? What happened in the past? Right? It makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the whole point. It's like so instead of forecasting each one and then creating those ranks of returns, we look backward and we see, okay, what was the rank of return for this historical quintile? How was it? Mm-hmm.
Isn't that already integrated in forecast, our historical view? That's often the base for the prediction, right? Isn't that one includes the other? Just want to
You mean inside view or outside view? I meant
outside my maybe I mix something, but I take historical data to say something about the future. So they kind of both at the same time.
That's a good question actually. That's a good point. You know, when you forecast each asset, you are not considering other 99 assets. And your aim is to rank them together. So you forecast each separately, and then you get the rank, and then you calculate the rank of returns, right? But, so you are not considering other 99. But if your aim is to, you know, it's like if you want to forecast the success of a startup. So it's really not important, you know, we are in a competitive environment, right? So you need to know how this specific team, this specific startup, with specific resources, capabilities, how are doing the job in relative to others, you know? It's at the end of the day, we are not living in a isolation. These assets, so if you are a financial forecaster, you buy things and you sell things. So one asset by itself is not important. So you should like, it's like a portfolio management that you choose some and you sell some, and at the end you get the profit. Yeah, it was.
What about, I totally get your point. You say when you only look at the one single time series, you forget like the outside view. But what about, for example, I take a model and as an input also give it all the other 99 assets, so it has basically gets some information also on the
That's
outside.
also a really good point, because it comes to, if you like expand this idea, it's like we have this univariate time series forecasting, which I mean, you just use one time series, but you have this global time series forecasting. Yeah. Like also AutoGloon is like that, right? You stack all the time series with index of each product, and then you have time, you have the target. So it's global time series forecasting. This actually is very close to that idea. So instead of only looking into one time series, you basically, because there are some patterns that maybe are not so observable in one time series, but if you combine them, you could see like a seasonality. If you combine them, you could see a nice shape. But in like lower level, you might not see that. So this also, I think, is very closely related to this idea of having a model that learns all time series together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if we are going to that direction of investment, so these are some historical quintile analysis. So what is this? It's basically looking backward. What were like the ranks of quintile? I took data from 2017. For each day, I calculated, so today, tomorrow, I calculated the return, and from the return of these 100 assets, I calculated the ranks, and these are the histogram of those ranks. Yeah.
Did you calculate the absolute or the relative return for every asset? Because if I have, for example, Amazon and it increases by 1%, it's still 100 euros. And
It doesn't matter actually. You know why? Because it's the same question. That this amount, it doesn't matter if it's going down or up, or it's 1,000% or 1%.
No, but
It's just the categorization.
But it does matter for the ranking. So, for example, if I rank relatively, it's more or less, it evens out. But if I rank absolutely, my high cost assets like Amazon or Google will overperform due to the absolute high value.
But at the end of the day, it's about which companies are on top tier, top 20%, and which ones are on top or the last 20%, right? So the worst negative one would go to the bottom of the lowest tier, right? And it doesn't matter if it's -10 or -1,000, right? And then the highest tier has, also doesn't matter, the first one could be 1,000 or 1%, right? Yeah, I think you are still suspicious.
Yeah, kind of, because as I mentioned, so you want to rank, right? And you are predominantly ranking high value, high assets like Amazon, Google, which are costly, higher, due to the fact that if you want to rank them absolutely, a small increase of 1% is already a high amount, so a high absolute value. Whereas in a relative, if we rank them relatively to each other, they won't be in the first percentile, but rather in the second or third, because it's only 1%, and other assets increase by 100% or 200%,
Oh, you mean
but are only in small absolute
I think
value.
I misunderstood your question. So you mean, how do we calculate the return?
Yeah,
The return is like price
absolute
of
or
today,
relative?
price of yesterday, divided by price of yesterday. So it's
Okay,
it's
so
level
relative.
3, right?
Relative.
Yeah, it's relative. Yeah, I misunderstood.
I think it's the dollar usually.
Could we perhaps
Always for the volume.
put questions to the back?
Sorry.
No, I think we can put the questions to the back, then
Yeah, sure.
then you don't
Yeah.
get out of the flow.
So yeah, here. So these are historical ranks of different assets. So this is Amazon, Google, Meta, and then some ETFs. And what we see here, could you say what we see here? So this is very high risk. So this, what does it mean? This one is at this amount of the time. So this is 700 times, like 500 times this asset was placed in lowest top 20%, right? And this amount of times it was placed top 20%. So it's a bit risky, right? With this asset, because you put the money, maybe you go here, but you might go also here, not in between. So it's a high risk reward profile. But this one is more stable, right? Not too good, but also not too bad. It's like in between.
There was the EFT.
Yeah, it is. And then these are like more balanced, right? And so these are 6, and
Is it over the year, over the last year? Or?
it's from 2017. 2017 is arbitrary. So I did some experiment with, I think 1 year, 2018 and like maybe 17, but it's arbitrary. So there's no like a smart way to do that. And then 2 missing actually should be 100. because I reran it to merge to some other thing. So I lost by finance. But this is the whole thing, right? There were 100 assets, and we see that it's so different, right? Some very high risk, high reward, some stable, some balanced, and
So maybe one question, technical question. Are you using daily returns or
Daily.
daily returns?
yeah, daily. Yeah. And yeah, so the question in this outside view, like this base rate, if you put it in Bayesian statistic or a prior model. So if we don't know anything about any asset, what should we predict? What is the outside view? If you are writing a textbook in a committee and you don't know any specifics, you don't know what is it about, if it's about mathematics or behavioral science. So you don't know anything about a specific, what would be your forecast? So let's say I don't know about this one, right? Or this one. What would be your forecast? If I say, so this is a graph, you don't know the names, it's anonymized. And what would be your forecast of, because the forecasting task was that you should provide some probability of this asset lying or being placed into quintile 5, like the best top 20% or worse or in between. What would be your forecast? It's easy, right? It's the same.
That's
That's
a forecast.
it, right? It's a frequency. So make it, divide by the total like number of days you had, and this is forecast. This is the probability. And actually, so in the beginning, I was thinking like to use this outside view to get like a prior model, and then use it like to do some Bayesian or whatever, use some smart thing on top, and get the forecast, right? But I experimented with that, with this graph. This is the probability. And this was already winning the competition. And they say, if it's working, don't touch it, right? So I didn't. So, yeah. This is the forecast. So this was for forecast part, and for investment decision, the only thing I did was to not go for highly these two like bimodal things, not go for those, and just stay in between. You know, just don't go risky. And yeah, basically that was it. Like that was forecasting, and yeah. I'm sorry if it's not like deeply.
Short technical question. Was it, do you need to forecast just one day or 1 week?
It was actually for the whole year. The competition ran for full year, and 12 submissions you had for each month.
Yeah.
So you forecast for next month and then next month. So it was rolling origin and for 1 year. So
30 days you have to basically to predict.
Exactly.
30 days.
like basically
in
business days, like 20 something like that. Yeah.
in every term,
Yeah.
12 predictions.
Exactly.
So no, go ahead. No, it's okay. If it's audible,
But it's better with the mic.
So when you said that instead of using the time series to make a forecast and then ranking and then making a prediction, you directly went into the distribution of the ranks of the assets over the last year.
5 years. let's say.
So from a different opinion, if I instead of looking at the assets distribution over the past year, if I looked at the entire rank distribution and the history of those rank distribution and then try to predict the rank of an asset in that distribution, would that also be the same approach, or would
I
that?
didn't. You need to.
So,
explain.
for example, so I have a rank distribution for 2019, then I have a rank distribution for 2020, 2021.
For each asset, you mean?
No, just the entire rank
Overall.
distribution for the entire.
Yeah, the graph that I showed, it was from 2000, so it was for 5 years, 2017.
Yes, but this
But you
is.
say if we split it to different years, like.
So because for every year, if I just look at the overall returns for the asset and rank them, I would get a rank distribution for all the assets at once.
You mean, I'm not.
So for example, if asset A, B, and C gave you the most return, gave you some sort of returns, I rank based on the returns that they gave you. I rank them, and that would be my distribution, right? It's based on your asset return, you create a distribution of where the assets are. Like the top. So for example, top returning has the rank 1, least returning has rank 100 or anything.
This is for every day. So every day, so from 2017 to, let's say, 2022, I took every day of these 5 years. So it's like, so this is basically the number of days.
So I think maybe I'm not able to communicate well, so maybe I can get back to you after the session.
How
And I will let
you
others-
account for that? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thanks Morteza for this really interesting and also like a super entertaining talk. My question is, like you said, your initial plan was actually to take those distributions as a prior to some modeling afterwards, but you found yourself like this is already good enough and you're already beating all the other ones, which is actually a super nice story. But maybe 2 questions. Did you actually experiment taking this only as a prior and putting like some more posteriors on top of that? And was it successful? And then the second question, okay, maybe first the first question.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't do that, unfortunately. I mean, like doing some Bayesian is also like more advanced, but also this is a new kind of data set. It's basically a transformation, right? You got your time series, you looked at all of them all together, and then you have a new time series. So this ranking, so instead of the price, now you have the ranking, like as a time series, and then you can forecast on that. So basically you took, so you have your time series, and now you transform it in this way by looking at all the portfolio together, and now you have a new time series. And now you can use ETS, ARIMA, whatever model you want, right?
Okay, so you did transform the data in the way you showed here, and then
It's basically, I mean, like conceptually, it's like
some-
transformation.
Okay, yeah, okay, cool. And did you also, and the second question, did you just run like a global model, like we said in the beginning, just on a normal data set without doing the data transformation? And do you have like a ballpark figure how much this transformation did make your performance better in the end?
I mean, there are leaderboards, right? I mean, like other people did, like deep learning, they did, yeah. I mean, but this was for last quarter. This was like every day almost was top. So actually, I was participating in this very late, so it was already 8 months past. But so I was not in global ranking, which means you had to provide the forecast from the beginning, right? But the guy who won the whole assortment, like in global version, he actually used some deep learning, right? But in Q4, he was not successful.
It could also be like a statistical effect that some Q4 was somehow special or different. Yeah, could be.
We will see next year.
Did you backtest that model in different periods to see how much the overperformance would be actually against the market?
I didn't do much actually, because I mean, I did experiment for, so this is from 2017. I wrote like 1 year back and 1 year forward, like 2016 or 18, something like that. I don't recall, it was 1 year ago. But the result didn't change much, you know, because it's too much data. And if you add, actually, so every month you had to provide forecasts, right? For last month, which was submission 12, I didn't provide any forecast. So, which means submission 11 would be duplicate for next month. So if you didn't submit, the previous submission would be count as new submission. Why I didn't do that? Because it didn't change, you know? If you have so many data from 2017, 1 month, which is like only 20 data points, it doesn't change this distribution. You know? So it was like Christmas last year, I said, okay, I don't need to turn on my laptop anymore.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? One last question, maybe. Just reiterating on that last point, I found that really interesting. That basically makes the assumption that all the ETFs and so on make, right, that the market is relatively growing relatively stable, right? Because otherwise you might have like sharp turns and then it wouldn't make a difference.
Growing or shrinking, right?
Yeah. It's actually one of the objectives of this competition was to measure market efficiency. You know, like if you could beat the market. I think this is somehow a proof that market converge and like this conversion to the mean. So basically, I would say this is a proof that you can't. So it's like the market is not predictable, basically. So, you know, it's, but then we need to go to details of the whole objectives, which is nice actually. But to your point, I think I agree that there is convergence. So, yeah, back to the mean.
Too bad.
Yeah. Too bad.
I have a very short one.
Sure.
Are you surprised that the ETFs won? Like I saw the plot, you know, it almost looked like a cross curve, and I thought, oh, he's going to pick just, you know, the average ones, and he's going to win. And then you actually like said, oh, you know, I picked just the average ones, and I won.
You mean this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is high risk, right? I mean,
sorry, the one on the left. I mean.
This one.
Yeah.
Because
and the left.
This
yeah.
one. Yeah. I mean, I don't recall like exactly what I picked, but it was mostly not go too risky, you know. So get something in between, which is maybe not this one, but if it was like the other way around. So this one I would sell it. You know, because it's a bit higher here, but you know, it's a bit. That part was not that scientific. It was a bit of also art.
Okay.